In this WrestleTalk news, Eddie Kingston's AEW Future Revealed, Ronda Rousey turns down a major WrestleMania match, and an update on Jay White's future, so subscribe and enable notifications to Always On for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
Wellicky. Well, icky. Eddie Kingston shocked a lot of people on Wednesday night when he quit AEW with very little pomp or ceremony, or circumstance is the word that's meant to go there. I'm going to go into details about his next move now, but let's just say general spoilers for wrestling. Because if I tell you what wrestling that's a spoiler for, then that's the spoiler. So you know what you do with that what you will. You got 2 seconds. 1 second. So yeah, after quitting and walking out the door on Dynamite, Kingston cropped up on the first episode of Ring of Honor TV on Honor Club to challenge Claudio Castagnoli for the ROH World Championship. Now, after Claudio's successful title defense against AR Fox, Kingston's music came in over the speakers and he came out declaring himself an independent contractor, telling Claudio that he had promised Jon Moxley that he wouldn't beat Castagnoli in AEW. But this ain't AEW, baby. Probably didn't say baby, probably said dog. Claudio let the mic drop when it was passed to him, walked up the ramp, put the belt on, and then winked at Kingston on the walk out. My God, that's hot. The match hasn't been made official yet, but it's likely going to take place on Supercard of Honor on March 31st, so stay tuned for more on that. So it turns out that Eddie's walkout was a well-planned ruse to allow him to hop right into Ring of Honor and challenge for the title over there. But not all of AEW's backstage drama is scripted in that way, and the company is still to a degree dealing with the fallout from the all-out brawl and press conference, something I bet the current roster just wish they could live down. But alas and alack, they are still fielding questions even all these months later, like Britt Baker, who was asked by Barstool Wrestling about it and said that it was both embarrassing and disappointing. She said, "It just felt like very much a disaster. That was definitely a time in AEW where I was like, man, this sucks." She then went on to add that scrums needed to be used proactively and responsibly, and then without naming any names, but definitely having a pop of punk, saying, "If I sit here and do nothing but tell you everybody I hate, everything that I'm mad at, or let's go through all the Twitter lies about me and debunk them all, that's not proactive, and that would be selfish of me to use your time and the world's time like that." She didn't say his name, but you can definitely fill in the blanks. Now, Baker was one of the people that Punk put over on his way into AEW, and even suggested to MJF during their feud that he had been replaced as a pillar of the company by Britt Baker. So Baker's feelings here must sting a little bit if you're Punk. What must also sting is hearing the infamous phrase, "creative has nothing for you," which is apparently what is going on with two absent AEW stars, because according to Fightful, both Miro and Scorpion Sky are healthy and available to work, but AEW Creative currently has nothing for them. Both men also reportedly have several years left on their AEW contracts. Now, whether one or both resurface after Revolution or make their way into Ring of Honor remains to be seen, but what would you have them do if you were AEW Creative? Let me know in the comments down below. Moving on to WWE now, and following yesterday's news of Brock Lesnar reportedly turning down a WrestleMania match with Bray Wyatt, it looks like yet another major WWE star may have said nah to WWE's plans. And would you look at that, it also happens to be another ex-UFC star. They're a stubborn lot, aren't they? Former SmackDown Women's Champion Ronda Rousey was the star in question, and while she is currently embroiled in a tag team program with the established team of Natalya and Tegan Knox, some reason, it seems that WWE had larger plans for Rowdy One. Because according to WrestlingNews.co, Rousey was originally set to go one-on-one with Royal Rumble winner Rhea Ripley at Mania. However, despite that seeming like a pretty decent spot on the card, Rousey wasn't that keen. Perhaps this explains the rather abrupt title switch to Charlotte Flair at the tail end of last year. So if Ronda doesn't want to go into Mania as the world champ, then what does she fancy doing at the show of shows? Well, once again, according to WrestlingNews.co, Rousey is dead set on winning the WWE Women's Tag Team titles with her BFF, Shayna Baszler, at Mania. I mean, he's basically trading a loss for a win at Mania at this point, and that's pretty good. The report also states that many in WWE believe Rousey and Baszler's eventual run with the tag belts will last all the way through the summer, and the reason behind all of this is that, well, whatever Ronda wants, she gets. At this point, though, the titles are, of course, being held by the very newly crowned team of Becky Lynch and Lita, who seem pretty locked in their program with Damage Control. However, it's worth noting that Ronda Rousey was originally listed to appear at this week's Raw in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with the belief that herself and Baszler could have begun their Mania build at that show. However, that did not materialize. Another interesting tidbit is that this major mainstream crossover star, Rousey, is glaringly absent from the WrestleMania poster. But you know who is there? Snoop Doggy Dogg. While by no means does that spell out Rousey's Mania status, it is surprising nonetheless not to have her on the poster. And with 4 weeks till Mania, there is still plenty of time, of course, for WWE to work Baszler and Rousey onto the card. So, don't panic, Ronda. You're gonna get what you want. You don't need to go all Batista on us. Water and nose rings. Now, while much of the focus at this time of the year rightly goes to the granddaddy of them all, personally, I'm quite a big fan of the Raw after Mania, as that is usually where we're going to get all those juicy surprise debuts and some NXT call-ups. And while on the NXT front, we are likely going to get your Carmelo Hayeses, your Zoe Starks, your Cameron Grimeses, etc., there is one notable free agent who could maybe potentially show his face in WWE post-Mania. None other than the former IWGP World Champion, the Switchblade, Jay White. WWE's interest in White has been well documented and long-standing. However, no official approach could be made by WWE or by AEW, who are also interested, while White was contracted to NJPW. However, as of now, that is no longer the case, with White's NJPW deal now officially up, according to the Super J cast. NJPW also seemed to suggest that this could be the case, as the NJPW global Twitter account announced that the NJPW store was offering fans one final chance to buy Jay White merch, stating, "Get it now before it's gone for good." That is rather ominous indeed. This post even led to a rather cryptic response from White, who tweeted an hourglass emoji and a question mark. Carrying Cross feud. Many believe that White's most likely destination is in fact WWE, with the Wrestling Observer pointing out last month that his recent defeats in his Loser Leaves Japan match and the Loser Leaves NJPW matches against Hikuleo and Eddie Kingston respectively seem to point towards a WWE move rather than AEW, with the reason being that if he were to sign with AEW, he would have been allowed to continue to work in Japan, so these losses would not have been necessary. So where would you like to see Jay White land next? WWE? AEW? Impact even? Let us know in the comments down below. And would you look at that? Time flies. It's now March 2023, and it seems as if we're not a whole lot closer to finding out who the heck is going to tear WWE from Vince's clutches. Didn't Nick Khan say April was the expected sale timeline? We get a move on, lads. Get a move on. One thing we do know, however, is the eye-watering figure Vince is after for the entire company, with the $9 billion asking price being 37% higher than the company's current market value of $6.5 billion. There is at least one party, though, that may pay up, and it's the one that we've all worried about. It's the Saudi Public Investment Fund. Now, while the Saudi Public Investment Fund has always been amongst the favourites to win this particular race, there really hasn't been many to make their interest public, with AEW President Tony Khan being the only other public frontrunner. However, while the $9 billion price tag may not exactly deter the Saudis, for the Khan family, they may need some outside assistance to hit the asking price, according to the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer spoke of the logistics behind the Khans making a deal happen. He said Tony Khan has expressed interest, but for him to get it, he'd have to take in a lot of partners to get it, which is not out of the realms of possibility. They could put together a giant deal. But aside from that, the Saudis and the Khan family, nobody else has publicly expressed interest in buying it. While WWE and the AEW higher-ups may find themselves across the negotiation table from each other at some point, as of right now, there is absolutely no love lost between the two companies. And while there are countless examples of this, it looks like we have another one to add to the pile, as WWE have seemingly denied a current AEW star his attempt to trademark a name very, very similar to one he used in his time in WWE. Because according to Insider, current AEW star and ROH World Champion Claudio Castagnoli has attempted to trademark the term CSRO, which if you look real closely, it almost spells out his former ring name, Cesaro, just with most of the vowels except the O taken out. Well, it turns out Claudio's attempt may have hit a little too close to home for WWE, as according to PW Insider, WWE have now filed a request for 90-day extension on filing opposition on the Swiss Superman's attempts for the term. Interestingly, this is the second AEW/WWE trademark attempt in recent weeks, with AEW's Chris Jericho filing to trademark his old WWE tag name of Jericho 2 weeks ago. Finishing up today, we're going to be diving into a fresh update on the rumoured AEW departure of FTR, because the top guys have been notably absent from AEW TV for a wee little while now, with their last appearance coming in a loss to the Guns at AEW Holiday Bash on December 21st. Now, while Dax Harwood has revealed that himself and Cash Wheeler were granted time off from AEW, he has also discussed the impending expiration of their AEW deals in April 2023, naturally leading to a lot of speculation regarding their next steps. Now, while the WWE hints have come via Dax's social media, there was a lot of belief that the team would be returning to AEW for the short term at least, in order to compete against the Guns at AEW Revolution. This week's Casino Tags Battle Royal seemed to be setting up the perfect opportunity for that return. However, to the disappointment of many, it just didn't materialize. However, according to WRKD Wrestling via Twitter, AEW are still planning on FTR being the team to eventually dethrone the Guns for the tag straps, although with April just a few weeks away at this point, you're kind of running out of time, TK. That is unless FTR and AEW have settled their differences and agreed to a new deal. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see.
In this WrestleTalk news, a top star quits AEW on Dynamite, news on Vince McMahon's potential WWE creative return, and Ollie's review of last night's Dynamite.